I'm a mother of 11 kids from Oklahoma. I woke up around 48 years old thinking, there's got to be something more in
Mm.
life. When a dream is dropped in your heart, the first thing that happens is your head gets involved.
Mhm.
And I didn't even have a laptop through my whole Harvard experience. I just had a junky old computer. I put a little blanket over a card table in my bedroom, and that's what I worked from. And did my Word documents on an old computer. And I suddenly realized, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. This is my why. This is
Yeah.
my why.
Coming up on Walk the Talk with Adriana.
Thank you so much for setting up the time and joining me today. You are a person that has made one of the greatest impressions just on just who you are and what makes you you. And I think our audience will very quickly be just as impressed. But let me just take everyone listening back to how you and I met. So a few years back, I was in DC with my friends. We were traveling for, I think it was business / personal. And we took an Uber, and there was this lovely lady in the front seat of the Uber. You started talking to us and just extremely friendly. And, just one thing to another led that we understood that you were working for NASA, and we were both like, huh, what? And you were this beautiful, healthy looking, amazing, just vibrant, glowing woman that I'm like, that's so cool and so impressive. And just when I thought like that was the apogee of being impressive, you dropped the bomb of like, oh yeah, and I have 11 kids. And I was like, okay, she like fostered 11 kids, she maybe adopted a few. Did not believe that. If I'm fully honest, did not believe that. And so I remember like looking at my friend and I'm like, I don't know what that means, but and then you show us the picture and I'm like, oh my God, like she actually has 11, and they're gorgeous, amazing people, family. Like it's just, this is real. Like she's a real person. It made such a huge impression. And then we got to talking and I get to find out everything about you and your story of, how you lived through a lot of serious trials as you were raising 11 kids and what followed after. And then, of course, your decision to go back to school and earn your master's degree, not like at Harvard, right? And then your journey into NASA. And so all of that, I thought, this is not a person, this is an alien. And then I find how much we have in common, right? And so as far as like our faith goes. And so I was like, wow, you never left my mind from that point. And then a few years later, we meet in Seattle. We have a lovely lunch, dinner. And then the pandemic hit. And so lots of things have happened in the past 5 years to say, well, last saw you, when did I see you? Like right in 2020, right? It was 2020. Because I just had my second baby. So all of those things, and here we are today. Thank you for being here. I would love to talk to you about so many things, and I have so many questions, and I think our audience does too. But really, to set the stage and to begin, take us back. Who is Allyson Reneau? Where are you from? What kind of environment, upbringing, mindset did you grow up with that made you into the extraordinary person you are today?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. The last time I saw you was my very last public dinner, like dinner in public, like at a restaurant. The next day, the whole world closed down. If you remember, you were the
I
very
do.
last person I had dinner with before the pandemic started in Seattle. And then I
That's
flew home, and
incredible.
then our world was locked up for a while.
Yeah.
So, we kind of floated in and out of each other's lives just at the right moment for a certain reason. And I've always known that you and I were like soulmates from different countries, different time zones, different ages, but somehow our hearts connected. So it's just a thrill for me to be back with you today. And
Yes.
so happy to share with your audience anything I can do to encourage them. My life does look a little bit like a fairy tale today, but it certainly wasn't for many decades. So I was raised in a small farm town in
Mhm.
Oklahoma, only 250 people in that town. My father was a farmer and a rancher and a businessman, and I was an only child. So, was raised in a gritty environment, an environment of hard work and, don't give up and don't worry about getting dirt under your fingernails and drinking out of the horse tanks. And I was riding horses and herding cattle. And, and my mom was very much a driver of excellence all at the same time. So it was a nice combination. And then went off to University of Oklahoma to get my bachelor's degree. And I was majoring in aviation. And after about a year, I fell in love and got married and never finished my degree. But I always promised that when my first child turned 5 that I would finish my bachelor's degree. But then there was another one and another one. And then, you know, and all 11, by the way, were with the same husband. And so we had planned two, but then we had like 9 surprises. But I think going from an only child to 11 kids really polished my character a lot and drew me very near to the Lord. Because when you go through 11 teenagers,
I can't imagine.
certainly sometimes only the answers are in prayer. So it grew me up a lot as a person. But I woke up, I think, when I was around 48 years old, thinking, there's got to be something more in
Mm.
life. I was born to do more than just raise children and coach gymnastics. I had a gymnastics program that I owned. And I just, the only place I knew to turn for the right answer nearing 50 years old was to God, because I didn't have time to make a wrong turn, go the wrong way with the, last part of my life, you might say. And what really came to me was, I didn't have any money and I was uneducated. I was in a very depressed situation emotionally in my marriage, and my health was really on the bottom. I was on the bottom in every area of my life. And, what really came to me was, Allison, stop blaming other people for where you are in life. Take a look at yourself, take responsibility. And your problem is you are uneducated and you are uh, broke and poor, and you have to change this. And so the only thing I knew to change, first of all, was education. So I immediately went the next day. My baby was 5. My number 11 was 5. I went down to the university and I said, I want to enroll, finish my bachelor's degree. I don't even know what degree. And the advisor gave me some guidance. And I was in class. I was taking 8 classes per semester because I wanted to get it done quickly. I was just paying a little at a time, maybe every week, for my tuition. Um, and ended up graduating 2.5 years later with my degree in communications. And I had perfect scores and graduated at the top of my class for the entire university in arts and sciences. And I suddenly, God was with me every step of the way,
Mm.
because I still had a full-time job and I still was, I think I had 7 kids at home. Uh, but I finally, when you step out in faith and what God leads you to do, you discover talents you never knew that you really had.
Mhm.
And I suddenly realized, oh, I'm actually good at school. I'm good at academics. And then so I did all that. And then I'm in my morning, I run every morning. And I was on a morning run in January of 2011, and I was 50. And I said, okay, I finished that part. Now what's next? I have to know, like, this can't be it. There's got to be something else you want me to do. And it really came to me on a morning run that I should go get my master's degree at Harvard University. And, it was just really out of the blue. It wasn't something I'd meditated on or thought about at all, but it just wouldn't go away. And I kept trying to shake it and get rid of it, but I'd wake up to it, eat with it, driving the car, it was a nagging feeling of get your master's at Harvard. And for me, I think when a dream is dropped in your heart, the first things that happens is your head gets involved.
Mhm.
And that's where the dreams die, is in your head and your
Wow. Yeah.
logic. And so I was thinking, I don't have any money. I still have 7 kids at home. I'm still working. Harvard is 1,500 miles from my house one way. Boston is, and I don't belong there. It's not my, tribe. I'm not prestigious enough to be there. But I took a leap of faith and went to the university for a master's orientation event. I had to borrow frequent flyer miles and Marriott points from a friend to be able to go. But the dean of the school was a woman, and I wanted to get my degree in international relations. And I told her my sad, sad story, thinking she'll tell me to go home and wait till the kids are grown up and come back. But she put her finger in my face very forcefully, and she said, "You will find a way to fly here every week, and you will get all your classes done on one day, fly back the next day, and you will get this degree because it will change your life."
Goosebumps.
And I suddenly had a plan, like I not with an impossible plan, but at least it was an idea of how it could be accomplished. So I went
Yeah.
back home and I applied for a private scholarship with a company that I knew supported women. And I told them exactly what I wanted. I want tuition, I want my books, I want a flight once a week and one hotel room. And the first person I asked said yes. They would, back this in a private scholarship. And so off I went to Harvard, little farm girl, mother of
That's
11,
incredible.
Oklahoma. And
Okay, so what happens with the kids while you're traveling to Harvard weekly?
Yeah. So what happens is I wake up about 4 and I cook breakfast and dinner in
Mhm.
advance. I didn't realize ovens could turn on by themselves, to cook a roast all day. I turn off at a certain time. So I figured that out. So I would cook breakfast before I would leave. I would head to the airport around 5:30, and then my flight, I'm driving in Boston, maybe 12 or 1. And all my classes were in the afternoon or the evening, whenever they were. And I would get on the first flight at 6 a.m. the next morning and be back home. Flying back home was a shorter time because you're losing in an hour, gaining an hour. And the kids had eaten the night before and they got up the next morning and had cereal and went to school. So, I was really only missing one day of work and one day of kids. And I used a lot of my flight time to study. I didn't even have a laptop through my whole Harvard experience. I just had a junky old computer. I put a little blanket over a card table in my bedroom, and that's what I worked from, and did my Word documents on an old computer. But I didn't feel sorry for myself. I was so excited. This was the path of escape from the world I lived in. My
Mhm.
education. I never looked back. I doubted myself, but I had some friends praying for me every step of the way. Graduated from Harvard with straight A's. Um, and all my research was in NASA and our U.S. space program. And then it just launched me into a space career. And to be honest with you, I'm still at this point. I graduated in 2016. I was 55, and the life I'm living now, like I'm still pinching myself every day. I wake up. I'm so grateful to travel the world and to, advise people on space and technology and do keynotes and leadership training. And, it's a life I never dreamed, but that's just how God is. He's the God of a second chance.
Yeah, amen to that. So, did you ever, because that is not the background you had growing up, not the environment you had, right? Like there were no um there wasn't the kind of influence that you were like aspiring, it was around you and you were aspiring to, I want to be like that when I grow up, right? Like I'm looking at you right now and I'm like, I want to be like her when I grow up. Um, how what was the thing that just changed your mindset? And did you see yourself at any point as someone really destined for this kind of extraordinary accomplishments? Or was it sort of you became a product of your opportunities simply because you opened yourself up and you said, enough, I've had enough of that. I want something different and I want something great.
I truly believe there's a divine plan down inside of all of us.
Hmm.
That is a great plan. Uh, and it just takes somebody to kind of pull it out of us. And I was reading biographies about Barack Obama's life, George Bush's life, different people. Just I was reading biographies before all this happened.
Hmm.
And I got to thinking to myself, what day did Barack Obama wake up? He was the product of he was a single mother, single mother. I'm not talking about his ideology. I'm talking about his life.
Yeah.
Um, he woke up one day and he believed he could go to Harvard. And then he became, a very successful Harvard law student. And then what day did he wake up and say, "Oh, I can become the president of the United States"? A black man from a single mom. What day did his mind? If he can change, I can change.
Hmm.
So biographies, watching people, uh,
Hmm.
realizing they all came from usually struggling backgrounds to greatness, realized I could change my life. And I felt like the message I was getting from God all the time was my whole problem was between my ears,
Hmm.
my mind.
As
And
it
I
most
had to
of the
change
time
my
is.
mindset. Yeah. So I just embarked on changing my life and see what would happen. And it truly did. And I will tell you, I doubted myself every step of the way. But I had no place to go but forward or up, whichever you want to say.
Yes, equally powerful. Okay, so what was, talk to me about some of the hardest internal battles that you faced um, to overcome the challenges across, like through that journey, because you make it sound very simple. You make it sound like, oh, I was just missing a day with family, a day with kids, a day at work. But that is exhausting. Just listening to that is exhausting. Making sure that you have the logistical plan laid out, that there's groceries on time so that that breakfast and dinner gets cooked, and like the laundry, who gets that done, and and there's a lot of kids, right? And there's a lot of nuance there too. What are some of the hardest battles through that journey that you had to overcome in order to get to your objectives?
I think two things for me. One was the guilt of leaving your children, even for a day, or I think I even feel that now when they're grown, when I leave and go out of the country. So the first of all was like this guilty feeling from a mother's standpoint. You want to give 100% to your kids like all the time. And, that's really not possible if you're going to build your life as well. And then the second thing was sitting in the Harvard classroom around people who were, born into different, better situations than I was, or have a prestigious name. Or I remember the first class I sat in, each student introduced themselves, and one would say, I have a PhD in aerospace engineering from MIT. And the other one would be, I'm the son of the Colombian ambassador from this country of Colombia, or just different things like that. And when they got to me, I was the last one on the back row. I was crawling out of my chair like this. And I said, I'm a mother of 11 kids from Oklahoma, and I'm a gymnastics coach. And I just wanted to crawl in a hole and die right there. Uh, because I didn't fit in. And I suddenly realized, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. You can't determine you can't determine your talent, your financial situation, what what you're born into, any of that. But you can determine, your where you finish. And I said to myself, the only thing I can control is my work ethic. I can outwork everybody in this room. I've had 11 kids. I've been a farm girl. I can outwork everybody. That's the only control I have. And so I just made that decision that would be my, you know, uh, North Star. My guiding light was work. And I don't know if I outworked everybody, but I know I gave 110% on everything that I did, and it paid off. And so these were the challenges, was just a lot of self-doubt, I think, and guilt for leaving children for a day.
Which I think everyone can relate, especially
Yes.
moms, right? Working
Mhm.
moms and otherwise. How long did it take you to get your MBA done?
I started in 2011 and I graduated in 2016. I did finish all my coursework in about 2.5 years, but the Harvard thesis that's required for graduation is kind of designed for you not to graduate. I think 11% graduate that start.
Oh, no.
And it's the thesis that really will get you. Um, and it took me about 2.5 years to do it with this type of Harvard quality that they wanted, the research, the interviews, the travel, the everything they want to produce an incredible academic piece.
Mhm.
And so that's why takes a little bit longer in the end.
I mean, I took 4 years to get my MBA, which was a 2-year
Mhm.
program because I was doing it with a toddler at my foot, pregnant, and with a full-time career, right? So
Yes, yes.
um, it is absolutely incredible that you took it across the finish line.
I do want to say one thing, and that is that my professors, my advisors at both University of Oklahoma and Harvard were angels. Every step of the way, they were pushing me from behind, believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. I just can't tell you how fantastic the professors were, especially at Harvard. Just still check on me today
Wow.
and encourage me. That's what makes Harvard great. Is they
That's
really
actually
care for their
really,
students.
really great to hear because I'm thinking from the moment of you sitting in that chair wanting to, crawl under the table because you felt like an imposter to today, right? To look back and be like, if I could go back and face Allyson at that desk and that day when everyone was introducing themselves and tell her that like she actually had the it factor because her story was like nobody else is in the room. If you really think about it, your story was like nobody else is in the room. With all the how you don't fit, this was the absolutely most compelling thing about you. Um, okay, tell me more about your work at NASA. What
Okay.
did that consist of? I am extremely geeking out over this.
Well, in one of my classes, I had to go straight from the airport to the classroom. So I had my luggage, my bag, my carry-on bag in tow to this one class, and it was a female professor. And she kept noticing that. She asked me one time, why do you do this? And I told her my story, and she took an interest in me. And then she began to tell me, you need to go into the space industry. This is where you belong. And I'm thinking, space, like, I didn't even know how to turn on a computer, do a Word doc when I first started all this. But she convinced me. And, people come in your life for a reason and just at the right time. There's a Chinese proverb that says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And
Mm.
here came this woman who took an interest in me. She said, Allyson, you need to attend International Space University. It's a NASA sponsored school, sponsored by also the private space companies like SpaceX and Boeing and Lockheed Martin. And people from all over the world come to this 10-week school, and all the space agencies, all the space professionals, and they learn everything there is to learn about space. You need to go to this. And it's very difficult to get in, but I'll write you a recommendation letter. And I know the director, and I'm going to recommend you go. And so next thing I know, I'm sitting in Montreal. It was hosted in Montreal that year, with people that had a space career already, working in the Chinese Space Agency, the European Space Agency. I mean, just brilliant space professionals. And here's me again in the same situation. Um, they taught us everything there was to know about space, from engineering to rocket science to how the human body performs in space to space policy and law, everything. And I was lost. I did graduate though with A's because I knew how to work hard. But again, God kept throwing me in these impossible situations. But a professor took notice of me there, how hard I was working and determined. And he got me interviews in Washington, D.C. And so I interviewed at 5 different places: NASA, the FAA Commercial Space Office, several Department of State Space Office, and ended up, I chose 2 different places. I wanted to try both. Tried FAA's Commercial Space Office, where we license and launch all of our private space launches like SpaceX and Blue Origin. And then I went on to NASA headquarters, which was fantastic, working in international relations with all of our international space partners. And I was just, again, I was having to fly back and forth. I still had a few kids at home, and they were understanding, and it was a big juggle. But it launched my space career. And then I went on to private consulting after that, around the world with leaders of nations and with space and
Wow.
technology. And it just turned into a lot of keynote speaking and conferences, and, sharing my story, really, more than anything, and empowering women. At NASA, we worked in DC, we worked with our international partners, like Russia and all these, major space partners, Japanese Space Agency. And there was so much request from countries that were emerging nations.
Mm.
And we just didn't have the staff or the time for it. And that's where my heart was
Mhm.
go to the places where people are forgotten, where they're invisible, and that's where I ended up. My first invitation was with the president of Croatia, in Croatia. And I went there. And, that's when I left NASA and spun off into my own personal business in space.
So when you have these keynotes and public appearance experiences, what do you share your story? Um is there like a theme that kind of crosses across that you're there for, to really, like, that's a key message?
Well, anytime I speak a lot, and in so many countries, every continent of the world, except for Antarctica. And so, when a director or someone invites you, you ask them, what do you want me to talk about?
Yeah.
So I've talked from a variety of many different subjects, not just space and technology, but it can be on, women entrepreneurship or education. It can be anything. And I ask them who the audience is, and I customize exactly what they want. Like, I just spent 9 days in Mauritius, which is a small country off the coast of Africa,
Mm.
and they wanted all leadership training for all their corporate people in that country, all the different corporations, CEOs and owners and leaders. And so I customized into all leadership trainings there. But it just depends on what they're asking for.
And the
Sometimes it's youth conferences, sometimes it's women conferences, sometimes it's breast cancer conferences. It's just
Yeah.
whatever I'm asked to do. Sometimes it's a World Engineering Conference. I was the keynote in Costa Rica. So you customize what they want. And I always tell a little bit of my story, because there's always somebody. We all need hope.
There's power in it. Your
You
story
know,
has a lot of
we
power.
all need we all need hope. So I always let people know it's never too late for your dreams to
Yeah.
come true. Never, never.
Obviously not. And the kind of resilience and grit that you have demonstrated and are continuing to demonstrate is literally the proof to what you're saying. Okay, your kids are grown now.
Yes.
Everyone is an adult now. I'd like
Mhm.
as a okay. Um,
And there's 15 grandchildren and one more on the way.
and oh my goodness, I look at you and I'm just like, she's loving. She's not being real. Um, what did motherhood teach you in all these years? And the experience that you had that Harvard could never, and vice versa.
Well, first of all, of everything I've done in my life, from all the businesses I own and run now, and different things I do, being a mom was my favorite job and still is. There's nothing like it, nothing more fulfilling, and nothing more challenging. And I also believe that when you raise 11 different personalities, it teaches you to be a really good leader, teaches you to be patient. Because when you're in leadership in business or whatever you're doing, you have to realize everybody was born different and
Mm.
you can't raise every kid just exactly the same, you know. Another thing was when I felt forgotten and I felt buried in laundry and diapers
Mhm.
and cooking and washing dishes and all the simple things of life, I felt um, like my life was lost. I didn't have an identity. I didn't mind it, but I made a decision one day. I'd read a Bible verse that said that God who watches us in secret shall will reward us openly. And
Mhm.
I thought to myself, if I fold these socks perfectly and I whistle while I work, washing dishes, and I enjoy the cooking and I enjoy every aspect of the small things that I'm doing, God's going to take notice. And one day he's going to have a more, you know, reward for me. And so I decided to do everything with joy and happiness. And I do believe that he watches us in our small things we do. Be kind to everyone, send text messages to encourage people, cook people cookies, all these small things we do, he takes note of. And if I feel like if you pass the test, he'll elevate you to the next level. And so that's what I really learned as a mom was you just do your best every day, even if it seems insignificant. Your kids are watching and so is the God of heaven.
Yes, it's like the other saying, like, God will, if you're faithful with with the little small things, He will entrust you
He is.
bigger things, right? And
Yes.
it's a really powerful message to be able to find joy in the mundane, in the small little,
Mhm.
moments of folding socks, which um, are not by default enjoyable. But I think it shapes your character to a point where
Yes.
truly you graduate to that next level.
Yes.
And I think it's exactly what happened. So what what was the biggest surprise or something that you did not expect about being a student at Harvard after motherhood? Because I'm assuming there were people from all kinds of backgrounds and ages and all of that. I doubt there was a single person with your life story. What did that feel to you? What did that teach you or tell you?
Well, first of all, Harvard was the very first university in this new world that we live in now, called the United States of America. And it was actually established originally for the preaching of the gospel to train ministers. I didn't know that. And so it was dedicated. That school was originally dedicated to bring people, to train people to take God's message and goodness around the world.
Mhm.
The surprise was when I stepped on campus the first time, I felt it. I
Mm.
felt that dedication of that land, its purpose was still like almost felt like it was electricity through my feet. I felt
Mm.
this feeling of like I can do anything if I can graduate from here. Um, so the surprise of the environment and the aura on the campus. Harvard takes a lot of licks and a lot of um, criticism, but what I found at Harvard, the surprise was they let everybody be themselves. They didn't care if I was a conservative Christian woman from Oklahoma with 11 kids. You may write about whatever you want to write about in your
Mm.
papers, your research, just back it up with solid research. And I was never criticized for my faith or for who I was or what I believed there. That's what surprised me was the inclusiveness and acceptance of everyone. Here I was an older woman with a lot of children. They didn't care. They were they were proud to have a diverse person on campus. And so that's what I found
Do you
at
think
Harvard.
that do you think that's still, because I think the culture has shifted considerably since
Mhm.
even when you graduated to now. I think there were many events in the world that happened in our country that
Mhm.
happened, right? Do you think that is still the case? That is still what one would expect going in, being from any sort of group, right? Any sort of community.
Mhm. I can't speak for the campus because I'm not there now, but I can't imagine that it's changed that much actually
Mm.
on campus in the classrooms in a period of, it's only been 9 years since I've been there. In fact, my fifth daughter just graduated with her master's from Harvard. And so last May, and she found it to be an incredible experience, very open minded experience, and a lot of passion from her professors for her to become next level. So I would say, yeah, in some ways I've been there recently, and she had a
Mhm.
beautiful experience just like I did.
Now that you actually brought your daughter up, I'm curious because education was something that you found, really defined your experience, or like lack of education in the earlier part of your adult life, and you were waking up at 48 and decide like what, that's my problem. I'm not going to blame others. Have you instilled a different value system with your kids? What it's like you have to get everything done before you get married, for example, or what have you? Like, what was your policy raising your kids, having gone through everything you've gone through?
I taught my kids just about hard work and faith and doing excellent at school and all this as they're growing up. And I did homeschool them, by the way, through sixth grade. And then I put them in public school in seventh grade. And
You
um,
homeschooled them? I missed that.
I did. I did.
How many did
Um,
you have at one time? Sorry.
I don't know, but there was a lot. It was a challenge, but uh, like I said, I enjoyed being a mom. But what was your question again? It was like
What was your policy when it came to
oh
education? Yeah.
yeah. So I was going through a lot of difficulty in my marriage, and I was going through marriage counseling at my church with my pastor. And one day he said to me, "You need to leave this marriage." And he'd been my pastor for like 28 years. I'm thinking, you are a very traditional man. That's what I said to him. Why would you tell me that? Like, I mean, you're right, probably, but you're the type of person that doesn't like to split up a family, especially with this many kids. And he said, if you stay in the situation that you're in, what are you teaching your 9 daughters?
Mm.
This was before I went back to school. And that caught my attention. Like, wow, I realized it wasn't what I was saying to my kids that was going to change them. It's my actions, and they were going to copy me.
Yeah.
So I just went back to school and did what I did and became successful for them to watch, and
Mhm.
never turned around and said, "You've got to do it like this or do it like me or look what I've done." I never said that to them. I just thought I'll live it, and maybe they'll copy it. And boy, I
Mhm.
tell you what, I couldn't afford to pay for any of my kids' university. They had to do it all themselves, work and go to school at the same time. Every single one of them, except the little one, there's still a couple left that are still going to school. Have started at the bottom, as a clerk, minimum wage, and I've watched them rise to the top and become CEOs. I've watched them become so successful on their own, living literally the American dream, and make something so special of their life. I'm very, very proud of them. But as again, I just tried to do it by example and still do.
Did,
I don't come back
well,
home and brag on what I'm doing. I just
yeah,
check out how they're doing.
more is caught than taught. I find that to be
Yes.
100% true. Do you find that experience, the sacrifice you had to make, missing the days with the kids at home to get your education, to be the time being away? Even now, you travel a lot and you still have kids who are in school. Um,
They're in university, not
oh,
not
they're
like
yeah, they're
not high
universities
not
doing.
high school.
Yeah,
So I can be gone a little longer now.
you can a little long.
They don't live at home.
You're still mama though, right?
Yes, of course. Yes,
And of
yes.
course, in the earlier phases when they were still a lot younger, I mean, you had to sacrifice. Something had to give, right? Like, and it was the time and it was the attention for you to accomplish the things that you set out to accomplish because you refused to give up on yourself and your personal identity, right? Do you find that somehow took a massive hit on your relationship with the kids?
Well, I think as a mom, we always feel like we're never doing enough. I don't care if you have
Okay.
one or two or 10 or 20. You always feel like you should be doing more. Like I said, we live with this mom guilt on our back our whole life.
Yep.
So, all I could do was just give my very, very best to each one. I always tried to take one with me if I traveled overseas or to Harvard. My little one was 7 or 8 when I was going to Harvard, and I'd take her and she'd sit under the desk and color. the professors would invite her in. So I really tried to include them best I could in my life, uh, and tried to do it one-on-one
Mm.
as much as I could. But, like you said, for me, I had to the thing that works best for me is my morning routine. That's one thing I won't give up, and I've been doing it since I was 19. Get up, prayer time, drink a nice energy drink, go for a run, write a list of what I need to do for the day and do it. It's the same thing over and over. It's mundane, but it's kept me healthy, young, and vibrant, and um, bulletproof. I mean, we have good days and bad days. Don't get me wrong,
Oh,
but
we all do.
but that power in the morning that comes from prayer and exercise really is what gives me the strength. And then from there, I just give the best I can all day. And when I go to bed at night, I learn to shake it off. And it says in the Bible that God's mercies are new every morning. And
Mhm.
that means he gives us a fresh start. And I just sometimes would go to bed with the dishes in the sink. I'm done. It's 10 o'clock. I'm sleeping. You get my 8 hours, and just move forward. And you can't live in the past or regrets. You just have to give your best every day. So that's all I can tell you. No mom ever feels like she gives enough.
But do you have a good relationship with them
Yes,
in
yes,
spite of that? Like, are you guys tight knit, right?
yes. But you have to realize there's 9 daughters. I mean, I felt like Donald Trump trying to get the Middle East to all come together. If you can get your 9 daughters to get along, maybe I should be the Secretary of State and broker peace in the Middle East myself. Because their daughters are all ambitious. They're all overachievers. They're all want mom. They want to be mom's
I
favorite.
wonder who they're like. Yeah.
They want to be. They just want to be mom's favorite. And that's they're all like my favorite. I just find such joy in each one of them. So like I said, just I give my best and leave the rest to God. And yeah, they're fun. As soon as I get back, I'm at lunch with each one of them. And I
I'm
got a
asking
sweet
because I'm
yeah, I got
asking because, yeah.
I got a sweet message this morning from one of my sons. He's about 6'3", big boy, strong. At 6:30 this morning, he sent me a Bible verse about um he said, her children arise and call her blessed, and many women have done well, but you excel them all. And, he said, Mom, I read this, and it reminds me of you, and I thought of you, and I thank you for the way you raised us, and I love you. Like
Aw.
just a little message like that is like, you know, uh,
There's so
this
much hope in that,
they
Allyson.
have such sweet, as bitches as they are ambitious, they're sweet, sweethearts, all of them.
This is really, really important because, like, I'm a mom of 3. I'm also really
Wow.
driven by accomplishing other things that I feel
Yes.
are important for me, but also that are, um, strengths that I don't want to bury and I don't want to
Yeah.
ignore. I feel
Yeah.
like I have other things to deliver and value to add, and I try my best with all of that. And of course, my number one priority are my girls. And to your point, like there's always guilt, and mom guilt is just part of just motherhood. Period. But there's a lot of times I wonder, will my girls resent me in the future if like I am putting emphasis? I chose not to homeschool them, and
Yes.
I chose to focus on my career, or because I am making myself as available as possible. I'm home every evening. I put the dinner on the
Yes.
table. Like I am involved in every way possible. I'm driving them places, all of the things, right? And yet, like you said, it's still feeling not enough most days. And so hearing from you how much you had to compromise, um, and the story and the journey, and that you ended up, in spite of all of that, you ended up with having incredibly strong friendships and relationships with your now adult kids. Um, it's just amazing. So I think it's just empowering. I hope that other moms and women listening can really take inspiration and take hope from that it's okay to not worry about that. It's okay to not, there's always something that could go wrong, but most likely it won't if you do your absolute best. If your heart is in it, you show up when you can wholly, like it'll all turn out. It'll all figure itself out.
Yeah, women can have it all. We just can't have it all at the same time.
That's exactly what I say.
So my life was definitely in chapters. I was a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. Then 10 years, I was building Victory Gymnastics, which now has been in business for 25 years. So
Do you
10 years
still
of
own that?
that. Yeah. Currently training 550 female gymnasts. That's how many are enrolled, and has been big like that for a long time. And then after 10 years of that, then started Harvard. So for me, my life was in chapters. And some people do education first, then career. For me, it was children, then business, then education, and then this life. So women have to be a little bit patient sometimes. Don't be so hard on yourself and try to do it all at the same time.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I feel like I am doing it. I feel like I'm running
You are.
the tracks in parallel. Granted, not with the same intensity, because I think my master's was the thing that I was doing truly, like full-time master's, full-time career,
Yes.
pregnant and a toddler. That was an intense season. But, I feel like it's however you choose to do it, you have to be gracious with yourself to recognize that you're doing your very best. You're showing up human, but with the most kindness and love that you can possibly offer. And then you cannot be responsible for the choice that's gonna for the other side, for the future, right? Like, you don't know, and that's okay. It's okay.
That's the beauty of faith, and that's the beauty of a relationship with God. Because when you've done all you can, he tacks on the
I love
rest. He's supernatural. He takes your natural and he mixes his super with it, and then you can live a supernatural life where he can make up for that gap that you feel, and he will shepherd your children when you do your best to follow him. When you're about God's business, he's about your business for you, business of your children, your work, whatever you're doing. So that's what I love about having a relationship with God is when I've done all I can do, I lean on him to take it across the finish line.
It's really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a moment during either your MBA journey at Harvard or during your work at NASA career when you realized this is why? That is the moment. That is why I had to wait for this season.
That is a fantastic question. There's an author named Mark Twain. We've all heard of Mark Twain.
Yep.
And he has a quote that I love. He said that 2 most important days of your life is the day you were born and the day you find out why.
Yes.
And no, I was going to school. I was at NASA. I was going to International Space University. I still didn't know why. God kept saying, you're still in preparation. Don't worry. Just trust the process. Trust the process. But, now I know why. For instance, for the last 2 years, I have trekked on foot deep into the Amazon jungle at the request of one of the most powerful chiefs in the Amazon jungle to bring them Starlink internet. They didn't have any money. They don't have any means to do it, but they wanted internet. And I'm like, why would you want internet? It's going to ruin your culture. And he said, we have no communication. We can't even talk to the village 3 days, the 3 days walk to ask a question and 3 days walk back with the answer. We have no communication. We have no health care. We have zero education for our children. And we need help. And so I went on foot. I'm sure you've seen it on Facebook.
Yes, I've been following.
35 miles on foot through the rough jungle. No motorcycles, no four-wheelers, no horses, all on foot. That we can't carry any food with us. You're drinking from the rivers. You're crossing rivers on just a tree that fell across the river. You eat whatever the chief kills. You run into snakes. You have jaguars in the trees. You have so much danger. But I love going to invisible and forgotten people and taking them, let them know somebody cares. And those villages those tribes have been transformed through internet. They now have schools. I started a school for children there as well. They have healthcare. Their lives are being saved with telemedicine, they're being helicoptered out if they get bit by snakes to local hospitals. Their lives are completely changing. And it was risking my life to go into that jungle on foot like that. But I also shared with them that God loved them. And that's why I came. I came because he cares for them. And now I'm also seeing them have a life of faith and hope. And everything's changing for them with these satellite dishes I've taken all through the Amazon. That's just one example of why, why is spreading hope. I have a school in Afghanistan, a girls' school, in-person school, not online school. It's been open for almost 3 years. When I rescued a lot of people from Afghanistan, hundreds out of Afghanistan during that disastrous U.S. withdrawal. And what do you do with the ones left behind? What do you do with the ones that are committing suicide because they can't leave their home? For 2 years, they couldn't leave their homes. They couldn't open a book. They couldn't work. The girls had lost hope. You, I decided I would have someone go straight to the Taliban government and ask them, "Can I open a school, grades 1 through 12, for girls?" And all they could do was say no. And they said yes. And so, the profits from my business, I rented a huge building. I pay for all the internet. I pay for the Wi-Fi. I mean, I pay for the water, the electricity. I hire all the faculty. I bought the desks, all the computers, everything. And this school's in operation for a third year. Not one girl pays tuition. I pay for 100% of it myself. I have a little help here and there from people who want to donate, daughters or something. And so we're 750 girls the first year at our graduation, in May. And these girls are crying, sending me messages all the time. We have hope. We thought we'd never see a book again. And why this school still operates and why it's still permitted, I don't know. It's just the grace of God. And how in the world I pay for it every month for almost 3 years. This is my why. This is
Yeah.
my why. This is going to people that were in the condition that I was in once. Not exactly the same, but where you're on the bottom and you feel like you can never get out.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody comes across your life and grabs you by the hand and picks you up and says, "Yes, here's a scholarship," or, whatever it was in my life. I want to pass that on. I have orphanage in Pakistan. I've been to Pakistan 11 times in 16 months. And you know how dangerous that is there for an American Christian woman who arrived the day after the Israeli war, Gaza war began, the first trip, and took, spoke in every conference and categories, and was invited to by their Air Force generals to speak to their pilots, and invited to the president's home and his cabinet members, and just going to people that are forgotten and showing that God cares for them and He has a plan for their life, and at the same time sharing knowledge. Not just a hope message, but also knowledge and
Mm-hmm.
technology or whatever they want to talk about. So many countries around the world, Africa. I build homes in Africa for pastors' wives who live in mud huts, um, who are made fun of because no one wants to listen to their message about of God because they have the poorest house in the village. Well, I make sure they have the biggest house in the village now, so the woman's voice is empowered now. So I'm in business to make money, to share that money to change lives. And the more I give away and the more I do, the more God gives me ideas to make more. And this is my why. And when I go to all these very, very challenging places, I just got back from Egypt. That's a very challenging country too. I was in 5 Muslim countries, just got home like last week. And I go there because I'm going to change their lives. So I think. But what happened is my life
They
didn't change.
change yours.
They changed me. They changed me. And they're so amazing and beautiful people everywhere, all over the
Listen,
world.
that is if we talked about all these like Harvard and NASA and thought that was impressive, this is a whole new dimension. Your work is absolutely. I'm speechless to
I
hear
don't
the
put it, yeah,
impact you've had.
yeah. I don't put much of the orphanages of the school, all that on Facebook. I did the Amazon jungle trips, but this is my why right here. I don't know if you can read that or not,
Right?
but
Okay, you can change, and you are. You are.
but we all can in our own way. And it didn't start out like that. It just started out. I remember when I was really poor, super poor for many years, and I had all those children trying to feed them. I decided I would put back $1 a day for donations. And I would, at the end of each month, I was going to give that $30 or 31, depending on the month, to some worthy, cause. So I started out actually with my giving in a very small. It didn't just like all of a sudden start when I had more. I started when I had small.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to put $1 in an envelope every day to get the $30
Yeah.
for the month. So it's always been in my heart to use
To
my
give.
time, money, resources to reach out to other people who are. There's always somebody in worse shape than we are, right?
Yes. Yes. And again, it's back to if when you're faithful with the little,
Hmm.
God will bless you with more. And I have
Yes,
found that to be true over and over again in my life.
yes.
Right. When I was a student, I was making $650 a month,
Mm.
collected across 5 different jobs. And I had made a commitment at one point to donate to Compassion International to sponsor
Yes.
a kid
Yes.
from Uganda. And it was a difficult $36 because you
Mhm.
only have $650, right? But in my spirit, I knew I had to do that because of something greater than I could understand at the time. And I just knew I had to be obedient to that. Well, I mean, the number of ways that the Lord has blessed me from that faithfulness, I can't count. And none of it is like, oh, I can track exactly, but I know. Like, you know, when you know, you know.
Yes.
So it's incredible to hear that testimony that you're sharing because it just reinforces the truth. That is the truth.
Do you know what a text message can mean to somebody when they're down?
Mm,
When God puts somebody on your heart, it doesn't cost a penny. Well, maybe a little bit, you have a cell phone plan, but it doesn't cost anything. Just an encouraging message to somebody that comes to your heart.
yeah,
There's so much we can do that's not money related,
exactly. Yeah,
right?
it's
Our time,
fine.
taking some cookies to somebody, just doing some acts of kindness can really change
Yes.
somebody else's life. And I'll tell you what, if you're suffering from depression, that's the quickest way out of it. Get
It's
your mind
focus
off
on
of you
somebody.
and go somebody help somebody
Yes.
else, and it snaps right off of you. Because we are women. We go
Yes.
through ups and downs. Some days we wake up, we feel like we have an elephant on our chest,
Yeah.
because somebody said something mean to us the day before. So we're kind of like, oh, we can't get going today. I'm having a hard time going for this run. But then you start reaching out to somebody else, and suddenly the sun starts shining again over you. Right?
Yes, it's true.
So,
It's 100% true.
mm,
You said you run every day,
yes.
which I find impressive. And I remember when we were in the Uber, you were sharing about that, and I mean, I see you, I follow you, and like that is it's 100% true. Like this is who you are. You wake up every morning and you run. Tell me more about what does that mean to you? Like, is it truly just about the physical? Like I need to be fit, and or is there a mental, spiritual, psychological component to it that is not talked enough about?
Well, running for me started because didn't cost any money to put on a pair of shoes, and I didn't have to join a gym, and so I could do it before the kids woke up.
How long do you run every morning?
Now, 2 to 3 miles, I mean minimum.
Wow.
But I used to run a little farther. I ran marathons and things, but um, now I'm a little bit older, so I don't. I just make sure I get a good sweat in for 12 or 15 minutes.
Mhm.
But like you said, it readjusts my mindset, and a lot of answers come to me when I'm running. A lot of burden lifts off my shoulders,
Mm.
of things I'm worried about.
So you don't listen. Do
And
you listen to something when you're on, or you just stay with your thoughts?
both. Sometimes I'll put on a playlist that's, like, can be a Christian music, worship music to kind of get my mind on something besides me. Sometimes I have to have really energetic music if I'm feeling a little low.
Yeah.
But I love running because I can do it in Pakistan, Uganda, South America, Australia, Japan, um, you know, Azerbaijan, all these
Are
countries
you
I've just been.
scared
I
ever to like go off for runs in those unfamiliar places?
No, I'm not. Um, I just stay. I don't go off into remote places. I mean, I'm running, and sometimes in India. I run everywhere, but you get to see a lot when you're on foot when you're running, and you get the lay of the land. And I go if it's raining. I go if it's snowing. I go if it's hot. I go if it's cold. I go no matter what. Because if I can overcome the excuses in my mind of why
Mm.
I shouldn't go run that day, I feel like I kind of like when the run is finished, I feel like a champion on the inside. Like I feel this feeling of like empowerment and strength because I went and did something I didn't want to do that was painful right off the bat before the day starts. And
Yeah.
and it does help me so much mentally and spiritually too.
Yeah, that's huge discipline. I don't have that. Like I said, I wanna.
It's a
I
fight every day. It's a fight
This.
mentally every day. And I've been doing it over 40 years. It's still a fight every day. To
Wow.
I can't tell you the excuses that come to the mind. The new ones, even after this many years of why I shouldn't, you know.
I would think that by this time is like a dependency, almost like you want to go, still don't.
It's painful. No, nobody wants pain.
Um, what is one decision-making principle that you live by that, has and keeps guiding you in the biggest faith leaps you have to make or just choices and decisions?
Well, there's a still small voice in our hearts that guide us if we listen to it. It's not loud. It's not like I hear audible voices. And I call it the principle of, I believe having a great life is this simple. People make it really complicated, attend a lot of podcasts, watch this, watch that, motivation, blah, blah, you know, attend seminars and conferences. But it really boils down to pray
Mm,
and obey.
mm,
It's that simple. Uh, it's not how many times you go to church. It's not how many times you went to Sunday school. It's not how many times you took a pie to your neighbor or went to the hospital and prayed for somebody or gave away money to an orphanage. It's really boils down to success in life is what is the inner voice inside your heart that where the divine plan has been placed already, what's coming to you for the day, and you need to do it. And most of it, there's just simple things every day we talked about, the routine day. That's not something you have to have a voice about. Like
right.
but I'm talking about if a voice comes to you, start a gymnastics business, or go to Harvard, or go to International Space University, or travel to Pakistan, or go to the Amazon jungle and find a way to buy the Starlink for all these tribes. I follow it, and if it's wrong, it kind of becomes clear. But most of the time, as you take that step forward, it becomes clear, and the doors open, and it works. So my life is that simple: pray and obey.
Have you ever made a big leap choice decision that ended up feeling you felt was wrong?
Um, no, and I'll tell you why. Um, God honors when we try.
Mm,
I found He honors us when we try. And have I made some decisions in business that didn't work? Yes, but I immediately would adjust and change and adapt and go a different direction. But um, for me, prayer removes a lot of risk from things.
mm,
You feel like God is with you. People think if you serve God that He's a God who takes away. What I've found is He's a God who's for you. He enhances everything you try, everything you set your hand to. He puts His extra secret sauce on it. And so that's where a relationship, not a religion. I've met
mm.
many Muslims that have an incredible relationship with God, where He gives them the still small voice. I've met many Christians who have a beautiful relationship with God. They hear that still small voice. It really boils down to relationship. Because before there was Islam, before there was Christianity, before there was people, and they had a relationship with God long before these religions were established. And really it boiled down to, did they hear God and did they obey Him? I mean, and it boils down to prayer and obedience in your life. This sounds really, I hope you don't mind me saying that, but
No, I
I
want you to say
need,
whatever you want to say.
I am, I am imperfect. I have struggles. I get tired, and I need His strength every day to get through the day and make each day, even if it starts off bad, into a beautiful ending. I need Him
Okay.
every day. Yeah. And I rely on Him.
What do you do when you have low days? I mean, I think you're human. Everyone will have those kind of just low days when
Yeah.
you're.
Yeah. Of course, we do. We really do. I actually reach out to friends and make a phone call
Mm,
and talk to another
mm.
friend and say, I'm kind of struggling with this. Can you give me a boost? What do you have to say? Any advice? And I called my daughter on Sunday. I said, I'm having a bad day. She lived in Washington, D.C. I'm having a struggle. She said, Mom, go turn on music up really loud. You get your shoes on and you go for a run and you get that attitude adjusted. You get your chin up. Like just a little message from a friend like that can, push you over that little hump you're right in front of you. So
That's love
friends,
from the daughter. That's
friend,
awesome.
friendships,
Yeah.
often help me a lot. Well, I want to say just one thing. You're sitting here watching me, on this podcast, and you're saying, "Oh, this woman's superwoman. Oh, this woman's accomplished." Listen, nothing is done by yourself.
Mm.
It is always a team of people. There was people who prayed for me for every paper at Harvard, every exam, every step of the way when I'm in these countries, this I got back from. It's always a team, and they're the unsung heroes. You know, so I want to make sure you know that it's always been a circle of friends.
I agree with that. I think, although I think the even the saying "it takes a village" has taken a hit over the past probably decade, because I don't think that young parents feel that, or like young people feel that. And I think we probably have shifted the meaning of that, because it's not the same village as it was defined by my parents,
Right,
doing
right.
family and doing life. And there was an actual, the whole street was responsible for everybody's kids. Like,
Yes, exactly.
I
Yes.
don't think that it's the same way anymore, at least in my experience and in my observations. But I think what you're saying is that it's important to have the kind of community that you can lean in and lean on, not only physically or financially if you need to or what have you, but in an emotional way, in a spiritual way, where that you're not alone and you can feel it. And I think that is absolutely true no matter what, you know,
Yes,
time, age.
you're right. And when I'm traveling, I travel alone all over the
Mm,
world. But I don't feel alone. Not only, talking to God, but also I can call a friend. And thank God, we have yes, the technology has isolated us in a lot of ways, but it also has connected us. So
connected, yes.
I can call someone from Egypt or Azerbaijan or Turkey into the United States for free, and talk on the phone and say, here's what I'm going through. I'm struggling with this or whatever. So, you can still keep the community. The technology actually can build your community.
Yeah. You mentioned because it ties into this piece, right? Of you have a community, you have people reach out. You mentioned the chief reaching out from the tribe, and like all of these forgotten seemingly parts of the world that you step into. How do you even find out about them? How do they know about you? How does that connection work where like you become the person to go step foot in those spaces and bring life and bring good news and hope and build schools and all the wonderful, just impactful work that you're doing? How does that even happen, right? Like nobody calls me you know what I mean? This How does that happen?
Well, I don't have a PR team. I don't have a person that's, going out and trying to ask, can I look at Allison come speak at your event? Everything that I'm doing is organic. It's just coming to me.
Mm,
And I can't tell you, I can only say that it was a dream of mine and God was in it. And I said yes to everything. I ended up in Pakistan, for instance. Almost every country I ended up in, it started out I wasn't invited by the king of the country. It's actually also often invited by just the opposite.
mm,
Uh, for instance, Pakistan, the door opened into Pakistan. It didn't come from some big, leader there. I'd received a message about a year and a half ago from a little boy. He was, I think, 10 from Pakistan on Facebook Messenger. May I interview you live in Pakistan on Facebook Live? I said, sure. So he sent me all the questions in advance in English, his second language, and he conducted this most beautiful interview. Next thing I know, all of his classmates are wanting to do it. So I'm doing like 4 or 5 interviews with these little children in Pakistan every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, taken away from my work and just, because I'm just really impressed at doing it. Finally, after like 3 weeks of this, I got a phone call from a very powerful businessman, like their Elon Musk, and said, why are you wasting all your precious time on these children? I said, well, because kids are just as important as adults. He goes, well, I'm really impressed with this. He goes, because you know why? These are the poorest children in Karachi, Pakistan. He said, these children have nothing and
mm.
you're spending time with them. Come to Pakistan. So again,
Wow.
most most of it, it almost seems like by chance, but what it is yes to the small things, yes to the forgotten, yes to insignificant. We're taught by the internet and different things. You need to your circle of friends is who needs to be like you need to brush shoulders with the rich and the famous and
Mm.
that's what elevates you in life. And yes, that's good to be around very overachieving people. But I have found that being a servant and being kind to the people that have nothing is what God uses to open doors. And so I can tell you into almost every country I've been into came through, I was helping somebody what the world would call that's on a real low level
Mhm.
and just being kind to somebody on a low level. The chief found out about me because I was asked to speak for free at the very first Indigenous Space Conference. Paid my own way, went there, did the speech. It was a very small conference because his first conferences are always tiny. It seemed like nothing. But a friend of his in Brazil was watching online and she understood English. And she said in her heart, I knew you were the person the chief was looking for. Contact the chief. Chief sends me an email. She's doing all the translating for him, sends me a video of his life and his primitive life and asking for 25 Starlinks. Can I buy them? Can I bring them? And I try to say yes to everything, and God makes a way. So there, it didn't start with some grandiose, none of it started with grandiose anything. Just small
Yeah.
yeses turned into all these big events I go to now.
That's, yeah. There's a lot to even process there, the way it all connects to each other.
Yeah,
And
it's all organic. I literally have never asked to speak anywhere, ever,
yeah, that's a,
or do what I'm doing. Yeah.
what would you say the biggest myth of having it all is, but also like, because I know you mentioned earlier, women can have it all, but not all at the same time.
Mhm.
Talking to a woman who wants to, and not just women, I actually think just anyone
Mhm.
wanting to invent themselves, who they find themselves at a point where they don't know who they are anymore. Like they don't have that clarity of like, this is who I am. This is what I am about and my life is about, right? What is your message to them?
Well, I think, my biggest prayer was I wanted to make an impact on this world before I left this planet.
Mhm.
I didn't know how. I just knew I wanted to make a dent
Yeah.
on planet Earth with goodness and kindness, and I didn't know how.
Mhm.
Um, and like I said, within all of us, there's a divine plan. But I had actually come across a book of a woman who was a nurse, and
Mhm.
and her job was to take care of dying patients. And for 13 years, she wrote down people's dying regrets. And then she wrote a book. And you know what the number one dying regret was? I thought it would be I didn't spend enough time with my friends and family. I get the guilt. I thought this is what she's going to say. But the number one dying regret was, to paraphrase, I didn't do the dreams that I had in my heart because of other people's opinions.
Wow.
Ooh. And I
That one's
realized
hard.
a lot of the things that were holding me back was fear of what people would say, you know, criticism, whether it be from family or community. Sometimes it comes from the people you love the most. And I decided at the end of this life, I wanted to take a big, deep breath and breathe my last breath because we're all going to die.
100% of us, we did the research, right?
And I didn't want to die with any regrets.
Mhm.
And to be honest with you, a lot of times my daughters are scared of these countries I go into and these places, these things I do. And I said, look, guys, if mom dies doing this journey into this dangerous area, just know she died doing what she loves. And it really, at this point, like I have, and I know, and so for the people that are listening, don't let other people's opinions hold you back.
Yeah.
I think that's we always take in consideration every time we make a decision. What will this person say? What are they thinking? Yeah. So not everything I do is popular. Okay. Not everything I do is well received. Uh, but when I sleep at night, I sleep with a lot of peace.
Yeah.
And, when you leave this planet, yes, you need to have financial independence. It helps with everything in life. But once you achieve that and you have a car and you have a home and you have a roof over your head and you can eat, you can't take anything else with you when you leave this planet, you know? And only thing you can take with you is people. So I've lived my life now to invest in other people. And, God, like I said, God gave me a second chance and it's my duty to help other people get a second chance as well.
That is really, really powerful, Allie.
Hmm. And by the way, only my best friends call me Allie. But
I hope it's
it's
okay that I did.
no, that's why I say I love you for that because I feel like we've been like close from the moment we met in the first Uber.
I honestly, it felt like we knew each other in that Uber, and I could not name why. I still can't, right? Because we spoke face to face a handful of times, and yet I feel so connected to you in so many ways.
Yeah, same.
So
I've been really proud of you, by the way. You're like a daughter to me, even though we've been at a distance. I really have only seen you face to face twice, maybe.
yeah,
But I've been really proud of you, when I first met you, just to watch you as motherhood and in your career and your beauty. You've gotten prettier as you're getting
oh,
older
you're so sweet.
and more shining. And I wish you all the best. And
Thank you.
I'll adopt
Thank
you
you.
as like number 12 if you want to.
Yes, yes. Oh man, that's a huge compliment, and I'm just so grateful for you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being open and honest and vulnerable and just sharing the powerhouse of a life that you're leading. What's next? What's next for Ally?
I don't know. I haven't gotten the message yet of what's next. So I'm just going to
Okay.
keep doing my best at what I'm doing right now and see what happens. But I
Not
am
that
very
you don't have enough already, just to be very clear.
well, I used to have to, when my life was rough for many decades, I used to have to wake up and choose to be happy. I had to, to wake up every morning and go, I choose to be happy, smile, get to the day, enjoy the Lord. But now, for the last several years, when I wake up, I don't have to choose to be happy. I am happy.
Mhm.
And this is a wonderful place to be. It's fantastic.
This is great to hear. Any parting message for our audience?
Yeah, just, love God, love people, and love yourself. And don't sweat the small stuff. Do you, the big things are like, do you have stage 4 cancer? That's something to sweat. Okay. But if you have 2 feet, you aren't missing a limb, you have your health, uh, enjoy your life,
Mhm.
enjoy what you have and be grateful for it.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you so much again for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Coming up on Walk the Talk with Adriana.